All right. Apparently I can get started now. So my name is Caleb, and welcome to my talk. It's called SPF Shadowing, Give Old Services a Chance to Shine. And if you didn't know, it's about SPF records and how to exploit them. A little bit about me. My name is Caleb. People call me Chill. Most people are just telling me to chill, and I just roll with it. Staff security engineer at Bill.com on the red team. Been doing that for a while. Been doing red team for a while. Consulting for a while and analyzing malware for a while. I've been hacking all my life. Anything that can be exploited, I take a look at it in an exploitative way. I'm also aspiring rally driver and aspiring Muay Thai fighter. Shout out to Coastal Muay Thai in Roanoke, Virginia. All right, so a little bit about the presentation today. We're going to go on a little bit of an SPF journey. How many people in this room know what SPF is and use it on a regular basis? Hooray. That's good news. How many people in this room directly utilize SPFs in their job every single day? Yeah, a couple people. All right. So we're going to be covering the what, the why, and the how. The what, short explanation on SPF, nice and boring. The why should it be configured? Seems like a silly question. It's not. And the how is how to fail. The F in framework doesn't actually stand for F. It stands for fail. And that's what everything should do under SPF. It should fail. We're going to move on to SPF shadowing, what got me started in this technique, the shadow of root domains, how I look at domains differently than most people, and why I look at them that way. And then we're going to do a short live demo of a utility I'm developing that may or may not work. After that, we're going to go into a little bit of SPF shadowing roadmap. So I'm a red teamer, former security consultant. I've done my share of pen tests, and I'm here to allow you to inject some of this data into your pen test reports and your red team reports to make you look way better than you already did. Disclaimer, I'm about to talk about some companies, so please, this has nothing to do with where I work. This is just personal research that I've done, and hopefully it will help you fish, but please do not hold my employer accountable for the things I'm about to tell you. So, Sender Policy Framework. So what actually is Sender Policy Framework? I could give you some technical definition of what Sender Policy Framework is and all this other stuff, but honestly, if no one knew, it's actually a mechanism that stops phishing emails and spam emails before they even touch your servers. So SPF, it works at the DNS level. Essentially, you set a text record, and it validates based on the text record. So your servers never even get the phishing email if you have SPF set up correctly, which no one does. But a lot of people don't realize it occurs during the SMTP transaction, which is why if you try to send the send mail trick, it doesn't relay. Another thing is, it's one of the most unconfigured things on the entire internet. Literally, there's not something that's less configured, I said that correctly, out there. There's millions and millions and millions of host names and millions of domains. And there's SPF on maybe 3%, 4% of every host name and domain in the entire world. So it is a problem. It's just kind of a problem that gets swept under the rug a lot. And also, it's just a DNS record. So when you go into a DNS administration console and you go to add a subdomain, you could add a corresponding text record. When you add a domain, you could add a corresponding text record. All the text record is the SPF record. From those of you that have had to set up third-party mailers with your domains, you know they require SPF checks to even use their services, which is good. However, it doesn't always work that way. Also, it's free. It's free security. I tell everyone this. So right now, you could probably think of a very secure password in your head right now with no software, no nothing. You can make up a very mildly secure password in your head that's free. SPF record, same thing. You already paid for the domain. The SPF record comes with it, technically. You just have not set it up yet. But most importantly, honestly, most people don't realize DMARC and DKIM both rely on SPF. So if you have DMARC set up and you don't have SPF set up, you're basically undercutting your DMARC. It's the first thing that gets evaluated. With DKIM and DMARC, it looks to see what the SPF was. You're literally taking a layer away from your great security setup just because you forgot to. Or just because you didn't think to do it, because who does? Honestly, and that brings the question up, why is it left unconfigured so much? We deal with domains every single day. We deal with phishing emails every day. People love saying DKIM and DMARC. Why is this left unconfigured? The scoping is hard. Don't know. Scoping SPF records can be hard, cannot be hard, depends on the size of your org. But the real answer is that we are all lazy as fuck. We don't care. I don't care. DirtyWhiteHat.net, you think I'm worried about someone phishing a bank with that? No. If I start getting emails from myself, I'm probably just going to laugh at the attempt. No one is trying to use DirtyWhiteHat.net to do anything clandestine at all. Got news for you, if you do try, it's probably in the block list already. But yeah, the simple answer is we're just lazy individuals. There's no actual process built around this. When you get hired, even if you administer like an Exchange server, no one ever tells you about this. Even when I was doing IT and system administration, no one told me about SPF records and domain stuff. And I was running bind at home. It's just not a thing that's talked about, which is why I'm here today, honestly. This is a talk, but it's also a PSA. Like, configure your SPF, please. People will love you for it. So, the real name of it is sender policy failing. Why is it called that? Well, it's because it fails things to prevent them from coming into your inbox. So the more things that fail, the less that comes into your inbox. Why is this so hard? I don't know. I do know that when SPF does evaluate whatever transaction is coming through, it uses these beautiful things called qualifiers. SPF qualifiers are probably the most advanced and hardest to remember things on the entire internet. And I'm going to have to talk to the RFC people about these SPF qualifiers because honestly, they're just so hard to remember that even I can't remember them. Actually, they're just 4 symbols. It's plus, minus, tilde, and question mark. That's it. That's all they are. The minus is the fail. The minus is the greatest hero in this list is the minus. The minus is fail. If you do not match these rules, fail. The plus is pass. So if you don't pass these rules, pass. So now we get into the sketchy part of soft fail and neutral. The plus and minus are great. Minus is absolutely great. Please use it a lot with everything. But where we get into issues is things called soft fail. Why would you have a soft fail on your domain? Well, you still want the email, whether it's good or bad. You may have had your domain spoofed by this email, but you still want to see it. You still want it to come into your environment. You've basically passed the checking onto DMARC and DKIM at that point. And there's a lot of SPF records set up that permissible for various reasons. You don't want to miss an email. People email from sketchy places. Sometimes you have sketchy places that have real customers in them, and you need to email these people and get email back. However, then we dive into the neutral. So SPF neutral, and I just call it questionable because it's a question mark, is the most dangerous thing on this list. What SPF neutral means is that all traffic, no matter good or bad, evaluated poorly or negatively, or poorly or greatly, is just SPF neutral. So all it does is make the email SPF neutral when it reaches your inbox. There's no security based, it's for testing or whatever. I personally think a lot of email filtration providers use that to pass email into their filtration system for their filtering, Bayesian filtering and stuff like that, to actually get trained correctly. But if you have a question mark in your all and you have your SPF record on the internet, you're going to get a lot of email that is not flagged as suspicious in your inbox. And why is that a problem? Well, It's a problem because these are what SPF records actually are supposed to look like. So this is an example of a great SPF record. You have one IP. That IP impersonates your domain, sends email on behalf of it, -all. That means no other email can be sent from that domain unless it's from that IP. Here's something you'll actually see, but not that often, which I encourage because it's all DNS. This literally just looks at your A record that's already in DNS. And those IPs that are in your A record are the IPs that are allowed. Shortest, sweetest, strictest, like you already configured that. Just throw an A in there. That's all you need to do, unless you don't have your A records configured. This is likely what yours looks like if you work at a company. You have some IP address or IP range /24. Don't know why you do that, but some people do. You have a third-party mailer for your marketing department, and the salespeople can't miss emails, so there's a tilde. This is just if you are using a third-party mailer. A lot of consultant places do this. They just use marketing mailers to mail out, like Proofpoint is actually a little egregious about this. They just keep emailing things out, and they just use one mail host as the third-party mailer. This is what you will never see. And this is what I would like to promote actively right now. You can null an IP out in a Etsy host file. You can null an IP out on the internet. You can null an IP out, or you can null a host name out to not send email. So every single host name or domain in your infrastructure, if they have this, no one can impersonate at all. But you're never going to see this, ever. This does exist. People should use it. Honestly, I think the registrar should put these in automatically and make you unset them when you register a domain, especially when you're going to be mailing from. Here's an interesting one, though. This does address the A record for the root domain, but it also lets everything else through neutrally. So it doesn't even matter what those IP addresses are. Those IP addresses in the A record are going to make it past SPF. However, everything else is going to be let through neutral. So if you have nothing else on the back end, that is going straight to your inbox. And it's not even going to be flagged as suspicious on most major, Gmail maybe, it just depends on the contents of the email. It's also not hard to just go to MX Toolbox and have MX Toolbox set up an SPF record for you. MX Toolbox will actually even tell you about your DMARC status, your DKIM status, whether your email server is on a block list, et cetera, et cetera. If you really just don't feel like hammering it out, just let MX Toolbox do the work for you, honestly. So, what made me even look deeper at this stuff? So I do red team. Essentially, we have to register a lot of domains for phishing attacks all the time. And being red team in a company for multiple years, you just end up with piles and piles and piles of domains. So you end up going to security talks to figure out new methods to phish with. If anyone was at DEF CON a couple years ago, Bytebleeder, shout out to Bytebleeder, did a talk on mail channels. Talk's called Spam Channels. Check it out. Highly recommend. Essentially, he was using Cloudflare workers because of their IP space to send emails through mail channels, which had their SPF records inclusive to Cloudflare worker IP addresses. And he was able to essentially send emails as all mail channels customers, which included boston.gov, which included blackhat.net, as a matter of fact. He sent himself an acceptance email from blackhat.net, which did pass DKIM and SPF with this method. So I started looking at this specific screenshot and just analyzing the data. So we have an include, like this is a very well set up SPF record, I have to say. They use Zendesk, which you can actually do a lot of recon from this as well. They use mail channels as their mailer. Something else I looked at though, so when I look at relay.mailchannels.net, all I see is a root domain and a subdomain. I don't see a host name anymore. So when I look a little closer, I see a PP hosted domain. and I see an SPF in there, and that's supposed to look like a host name. To me, it just looks like a root domain and a subdomain. And PP hosted is Proofpoint. So that is their email filtration that their email goes through that actually just makes sure everything's good, and it sends it back to their inboxes. And at times, if the email is bad, it will also pull, when a campaign has been recognized by Proofpoint, it will pull the email for that campaign out of the rest of the inboxes in the organization. It should. So looking at that just made me think, what's with those subdomains? Like, wow, that says SPF in it. What on earth could they be doing with this subdomain? So I started looking at other companies. And like I said, when you're red team, you have all these just domains. And once you burn them after 2 weeks, you have to wait a long time for that to get legitimate again and do various things to legitimize that domain. You end up with piles and piles and piles of domains. So I start looking at subdomains. There's an industry standard right now where if your company does business with another company, they give you a login page on their domain, which is a subdomain. It's just a subdomain on their domain. And you use that login page to interface with your SSO or whatever, but it's still, they give you a login page. Not one of those providers, with one exception, I believe Slack, sets SPF records on those subdomains. So say your company uses Okta, and has an Okta login page, there's no SPF record on it. You can actually use that for phishing. Every major company out there has similar things. Use Salesforce. You probably have an instance in their passive DNS somewhere. And how many options is too many? I don't know, try 16,000, 17,000 subdomains. And this is passive, granted. Not all of those resolve, but a lot of them do, and none of them have SPF records. That's problematic in its own right, but when we start looking at actual email filtering services, like Proofpoint, we see that they have thousands and thousands and thousands of these subdomains. And you realize that none of those have SPF records on, regardless of the fact they're SPF filtering services. And in some cases, those are actual mail servers. You can see the MXs and the host names. None of them have SPF records, which is a problem. It's such a problem that I dug a little deeper. And the question is, even when you reach this point, how do you put SPF records on all these domains? That's a lot of domains. That's a lot of work. SPF isn't free if you have to do this much work for it. However, they did. So they have a whole other set of subdomains that all have SPF records on them. More, as a matter of fact, than the PP host. They have PPOPs, which is their actual mail service that delivers the emails. Curious about this sometime? Look in your email headers. These are all just in email headers, and it just makes me suspicious. So all 12,000 of these have SPF records, and that is terrific. Great job. Until we just start looking at the SPF records a little bit, and we realize there is a question mark all at the end of these SPF records. And we're like, maybe I can send on behalf of these domains, and you can. As a matter of fact, it's almost worse than not having an SPF record, because this automatically makes it neutral in the SPF when it gets in your email box. This literally just passes it on to whatever, if you have other services available like DKM or DMARC, this is just like, hey, we're done with it, do whatever. So we start looking at this, and we see that this is very, very permissive to their own servers. So let's go a little deeper. Support 1 has an SPF record, but the original SPF subdomains that we looked at from the spam channel talk slide don't even have a qualifier associated with them, which is an auto pass, by the way. It's an automatic plus. Oops. It's an automatic plus. So not only can you use their email servers, all of them, to spoof on different levels, but you can actually use their SPF servers and probably maybe even get a passing SPF if you do it right. Now, I'm not going to take you into the nitty-gritty of this specifically. I did disclose this to them 3 months ago. I have been checking their servers every week since then. I literally had a meeting with them to disclose this. It's still like that. I don't know. I hope they do better. Until then, please use their servers, not their services. So when I look at SPF shadowing, and again, I look at it as a subdomain and a domain. Just go through your inbox. You find stuff like this. travel.hiltongardenvacations.com. That seems like an chef's kiss phishing domain. I'm going to see if I can use that. There's an SPF record, which is less permissive than Proofpoint. Can't use it. What are we going to do? We're just going to look at the other options. And this is what the shadow is. Like, there's always a shadow of non-SPF in every root domain, no matter where you look. Some of these are customers, some of these are services. You could be one of their staging servers if you really wanted. But it's golf season, so we're going to do LPGA because there's a lot of golf going on right now, and we might want to take a golf vacation. So as you can see, there's no SPF record for this domain, for this subdomain. So we're going to do some advanced hacking in SendMail and Telnet with a freshly installed SendMail server on a ghetto server out in DigitalOceanville. So as you can see, the email successfully sent. So what we should see is an email from, I think, contest.lpga.hiltongardenvacations.com. However, SPF on the internet is so crazy bad that it came through as an Akamai Edge email, because the Akamai Edge service actually had a permissive SPF record that allowed the email to come through as that instead, whereas it just essentially passed off, the HiltonGardenVacations.com essentially passed off SPF to Akamai Edge, and Akamai Edge is like, yeah, that's me. Did I want to fish myself with a contest from Akamai Edge? No. I wanted a vacation, but the trueness is the fact that this still made it to my inbox with SPF none, DMARC none, and DKM none. Under Akamai, that wasn't even who I was targeting. That is just, this is a representation of how bad SPF is out there, because you could try one thing, just make sure to test things before you try them. Because you could have an email set up beautifully. You could have harvested the email, made your own template, made your own clickjack within the email, all that great stuff, and you send the email and it comes through Akamai Edge. I mean, sure, they're going to click on it. Don't get me wrong. They're still going to click on it, but it looks way better if you actually have it be the host that you're supposed to have. And you will never be able to tell this unless you do some like pretty thorough DNS recon on this beforehand, which you're not going to do. So I've created a little utility that maybe will help you do that. It is in its early stages, so I apologize. If you use a virus total key with it, my apologies. It will time out your virus total key. But I'm going to give a short demo on how this works. Essentially, it is to perform these actions without having to look up, go to virus total, and do all this other stuff. It's called SPF Shadow, and hopefully this works. So, sorry, RVAsec. I love you. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, why not? So, essentially what this does is it uses OSINT sources instead of DNS or anything to gather these resources and show you these resources. The roadmap for this is going to be finding extremely lackey permissive SPF records. Please word, please word, please word. But essentially what this script is to save a lot of time. If you're in a hurry and you want to target a domain, okay, maybe it'll work. It's still going. Damn it. Let's try it again. I used RVAsec.com. I'm sorry. Maybe this will work. If not, I'm not doing the live demo. Anyways, so what this does is essentially it will list out anything where the SPF records match, and it'll list out any domains on the core domain that do not have SPF records. And the roadmap for this is essentially it's going to be able to list SPF deficiencies, and it will essentially recurse SPF records to show you the best things that you can pick. I have a feeling this isn't going to work again. Also, pphosted.com, if you try to perform queries against it, there's a lot of subdomains. It might actually flood the connection through my phone right now. Okay, sorry, we're going to go back. Anyways, as you can see from the screenshot, it does actually work. So what I've done here is listed pphosted subdomains that do not have SPF records. It's good for a pinch when it works. So right now it queries security tails, it queries virus total, cst.sh, and one other source. But the plan is to have a couple other sources and actually have it query correctly. So you can just run this really quickly, get some targets, do some research on the targets, so you don't have to go click crazy on virus total or anything like that. Anyways, so the shadowing roadmap, this is for red teamers and pen testers and anyone else. I'm sorry I had these ideas so late into my career. I could have really used some of this when I was consulting. So red team tips. If you're a red team at a company, list all your third-party providers. Like, all of them are set up way worse than your company, and they may even have permissive SPF records for your company to use, which you can pretend like you found publicly, but use these. You already have a vendor list. Sorry, vendors, do better, but a lot of these vendors don't have SPF records set up on their subdomains, especially for you. So you can fish yourself with your own login page, you can fish yourself with whatever you want, but choice is yours. Look through header information on the emails that you already have. That's what even got me interested in pphosted.net or .com and ppops.net. I just kept seeing them. I was trying to analyze why my phishing emails were or were not getting through. I'm like, wow, these filtering domains are just stuck in my head. What do? I'm going to start researching them. So that's what I did. Honestly, while you're at it, download some vendor emails that they've sent to you, because if you're going to use the vendor's subdomains, why not use their emails too? Little red team tip. Pen test tips, almost more important. So as a pen tester, you're trying to get that report done, you're trying to get findings on the report, you're trying to make yourself look good, you're trying to make your company look good. You're trying to drop the mic and have them bring you back the next year. We've all struggled, we've all had that pen test report with like 3 mediums and a low, and we're like, ugh. Maybe I'll SSL scan and I'll find something crazy. Like, you're running Nessus at the last day of the engagement and you're just like, oh man, like I need to put something on this report. Like, have you ever thought about just utilizing, I'm gonna skip ahead to this. SPF records make great findings on reports. And it's nothing you will ever see on a pen test report. I've never put one on. I've never talked to anyone to put anything on. We had an auto report generator where you could just pull the exploits and pull the things into your report. There's never anything about SPF. Start calling it out. It'll make you look good. It'll make you look trivial, but it'll make you look really good. Just, don't be the person that they elect to add the SPF records. Please explain the recommendation does come with a bit of manpower, a bit of person power behind it, but yeah, evaluate every single host name in the client scope for SPF. Every single one. And they always have the host names that they didn't give you. Those too. If you can find like a host name or a domain name that they own that they didn't give you that has SPF, and if you can actually utilize that for a phishing attack and then call out the SPF as an actual additional finding, just makes you look better, pads the report better. And it's not they cannot argue with it, because because you can literally just spin up SendMail and keep sending them junk. But honestly, develop a list of vendors. A lot of vendors have the subdomain problem. Hopefully they fix it. Hopefully this talk does the trick, because there's a lot of them that do it. Anyone that assigns you a subdomain, the first question should be, what comes with this subdomain? Do you come with, does this come with security? Does this come with SPF? And the answer is going to be, what do you mean? Why would this come with an SPF record? We're not planning on emailing you from it. Well, then it should have a null one right away. My company actually had a service where, we don't have it anymore. When a customer signed up, we would give them a free subdomain as a website. We do not do this anymore. Shockingly, we had some mechanism built in. Some developer somewhere deserves a gold medal, because every single one of those subdomains had a mechanism where it added a text record and nulled the SPF immediately. It's the first time I've ever seen it. I'm glad we stopped using that, because it's obviously exploitable. But yeah, it gets back to SPF records. Every single one of those could be a potential someone impersonating one of your customers to you. So it works the other way around. All these providers that give you a subdomain for your login page would be a little bit confused if you started emailing them from it. So it actually is social engineering the other way, as long as you can get it into their inbox, which that's your problem at this point. But yeah, that is it. I'm sorry if I bored you with SPF, but please do better. Please null out some SPFs. Thank you.